No, and that's such an important thing, right? Because when you feel, because in one way there is this compulsion that you have to perform for the world, you have to live for the world, you have to show, put your strongest foot forward and show the highlights in your life, um, and at the same time, words like vulnerability and authenticity are being bandied around, like, the hashtags that are so important. But I can't really believe that can really exist when you're only kind of showing your the strengths all the time, or showing your achievements or your success stories all the time. But what you said is, while that is being done on one side, it seems like the responsibility of to yourself, because when you meet a person, whoever it may be, right? Meet a colleague at work, meet a friend, or meet a new person. There is this kind of interaction, guidelines for interaction, or there's this ethic, which is you do watch what you say, because there are consequences to your actions, to your words. So it kind of seems contradictory, right? One side, you are performing for all these strangers to impress them, yet there's no responsibility. You can say whatever. You can attract people by saying hate. You can attract people by saying negative things. You can attract people by saying lies. And on the other side, in the real world, or offline, you have this at least I totally agree with you, because even I kind of watch what I say. Of course, sometimes you go overboard when in certain situations, when you lose control. But for the most part, there is this, I wouldn't say filter, but there's this internal mechanism that kind of guides the way you meet and talk and interact with people. So yeah, I don't have a question, but I'm just trying to understand that it's quite baffling, right?
It just seems extremely human to me.
Mm.
We want to look our best to others.
Yeah.
In general, we don't, most of us, and maybe I shouldn't say that, but classically, we don't like to show our shadow side. We're kind of afraid of that.
Yeah.
We try to compartmentalize it or not confront it so much. Um, you're right about the artificiality of social media as a platform. I think that's an ongoing tension, in the same way that public relations always had that ongoing tension, or even um, having a resume.
Yeah. Yeah.
It is best foot forward, because think of people going on a first date. You're not going to tell the first date all your odd eccentricities and the things that are really important to you necessarily, because you want to see what they're like. And it's going to take a few rounds before you really know
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
each other is like. And you let down your guard a little, and you relax, and you feel more comfortable, or you decide it's not for you.
Mm.
My feeling about authenticity and vulnerability is we are who we are, and the truth comes out. I really believe that.
Yeah.
It
There's at
may
least,
not
yeah.
in the very first interaction, although sometimes you know, you talk to a person and you just get the sense of whether they would be good for you or not. And you might be wrong.
Yeah.
Sometimes we're wrong. But if I present inauthentically on social media, then when someone gets in touch with me to see about my working with them, they're going to be disappointed,
Mm.
and they won't want to hire me. And the reason I'm on social media is for business purposes. I wouldn't be on there for my regular human connection. I do that in other ways.
Yeah.
Um, so I actually feel like I can be nicely dressed. I'm wearing a scarf now. I wear a scarf almost every day. It's part of my it's just how I dress. It's part of my persona.
Mm-hmm.
So it's meant to look nice, but it's not fake. I actually wear it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so
And that's what
I,
I find that, sorry for interrupting.
no, good, please.
No, because we have this whole generation of advertising which is going through individuals promote, and you mentioned the scarf thing, and I think I just wanted to talk about the appearance, right? Because you have individuals called influencers, and influencers, of course, influencing people. And I find it, I wouldn't say inauthentic, but I find it quite crazy how, I think advertising in itself is selling a certain story. I don't know if it's a true or but an aspirational story. But when you have an individual who's being approached by 15, 20 brands, and they're all different, right? I get it. There are some who are doing really, really good work with spreading the message of whatever it may be, with better lifestyle, better food, better fitness. But for every one of those or 10 of those, there may be 100 or 1,000 others who are, one day they're selling, supplements. The next day they're selling, the best blender on Amazon, or the next day they're selling something. So the thing is, they might not even, like, you wear the scarf because that's part of what you chosen to kind of display your image, your comfort level, and that's what you're confident about. But I don't think everyone can. They're not able to do that because they jump at any brand that comes at them because they want to. It's kind of become this rush to kind of get everything quickly. And as you said, speed. It's all about getting popular quickly. It's about getting rich quickly. But how does that, from a business point of view, how does someone like that sustain that model for years? Because you hear about it for 6 months, then that person's gone. Now, 3 months, another person comes up. So it's very replaceable, these influencers, because there are some of those who've really been around for years. I mean, this entire digital era is about 22 years old, so it's not that long a time that we're talking about. But you have some people who withstood that sort of 20-year period. But then you hear about people who are big for 6 months, then they're nowhere because one is someone else has replaced them, or two, they've had some mental health breakdown and they can't cope with that popularity. So, so how does someone like you who spent so many years in the space of looking at businesses, look at this model of the influencer?
In a way, you answered your own question.
Oh, damn it. me and my wordiness.
because everybody's looking to make a living, mm-hmm. and everybody's entitled to do that. Mm-hmm. If people are too shallow, too surface, willing to take anyone's money, mm-hmm. and don't have a solid core of expertise, consistency, they do often flare out. Mm-hmm. They might be okay for a while, and then they might learn a sturdier kind of path. I mean, speaking as a consultant, it's always been true that there were people who said they were consultants with very little background.
Yeah.
Some of them matured into knowing what they were doing.
Yeah.
We all start out at the beginning, so there are a lot of different ways to progress. If you take any kind of business from anybody, your reputation may not be as good, exactly to your point, as someone who's more consistent and has a clear mission or set of values. Mm-hmm. So when the market is working well, it recognizes that difference pretty quickly. If there is, bad faith kind of stuff, I mean, this is why here in the States, the FTC, the Federal Trade Commission, has all kinds of rules. You have to declare, in effect, that you're an influencer. You're supposed to say that you've received these products. Not everybody follows the rules, of course, but there are actual governmental structures to try to make sure that people aren't being conned.
Right.
So sometimes the market knows it's on its own. Sometimes government has to step in to protect us if we can't tell. In general, though, mm-hmm. if I can tell somebody's a phony, why would I listen to them?
Right.
So exactly to your point, if you feel suspicious about somebody who seems, it's vitamins one day and blenders the next, and maybe they're really just talking about health, but maybe what they're talking about makes no sense, then the smart thing is to not pay attention. Mm. It doesn't mean you have to take them on.
Right.
But why waste your time?
True. But you have a lot of shift happening in the space of business, and a lot of opportunities, which are great with the digital space. And even where I live in Bangalore, it suddenly now seems like everyone is now got a startup, and they just got startup ideas. It's seed funding. The talk is just money, money, money. Making pitch decks, making elevator pitches. It's never ending, right? But what I'm trying to understand is, as you said, a good idea will eventually stand the test of time, and it, of course, with the right kind of inputs, with the right kind of team, it will grow. But sometimes a lot of the ideas aren't picked up because of whatever the reason, right? It might get swamped by by all the noise on the internet. Like I was talking to a professor of psychology from Virginia Tech, and he said, he's been in it for 50 years, but sometimes he's worried that the message, the research that he's done doesn't get out because of pop psychologists on social media who give you 3 rules to feel happy in 3 minutes, or 10 ways to get rich in 10 minutes. And it seems like that's what people want. They want the quick fix. So when you apply that to a business, someone starting a business, someone who's struggling with the business, how do you put it in perspective? Because they might say, you know what, I'm just not, the algorithms aren't favorable to my online business, maybe my e-commerce business, maybe the product I'm trying to promote online. Because at the end of the day, the footprint you have online does help you grow your business. So how do you approach that?
You sure know how to load up a question.
I think I just talk too much. I don't think it's loading up intentionally.
I think you have a lot of ideas at the same time. I'm going to try to parse this out.
Right.
So one thing at the beginning of your idea of this question had to do with some good ideas don't get heard. Mm-hmm. There's too much noise. And that's where some promotion is important.
Right.
And promotion. So I think there are people who are perhaps instinctively promotional, self-promotional, and people who are less so, perhaps. Yeah. I don't know if that's a fair binary, but let's use it. I am mindful of something Marshall Goldsmith said. Do you know who he is? He's like the #1 leadership coach in the universe.
Okay.
Very famous book, What Got You Here Won't Get You There. And a very practical thinker about how executives should function for their good and for the good of their organizations. And one of the things he said, if you have concerns about the phoniness of self-promotion and the noise and all these things, he asked, is the world better off or worse off if they hear about you and come to get your help? And if you believe in what you're doing, of course you think the world is better off.
Yeah.
Well, if you want them to find you, you have to put up a signpost, which in this world is at least as much digital as it is, concrete. So the need for intelligent promotion is there. So your professor that you spoke with may need support getting his ideas out if he's not personally skillful at that.
Yeah.
The issue of startup and how do you get going and how long it takes. So when I work with clients, I'm very clear that nothing strong happens overnight. Big successes, there are very few overnight successes. They are overnight successes after 15 years in development struggling.
Right.
It looks overnight because we don't see the struggle. Humans have always wanted quick fixes. That's why we prefer a pill to exercise. Right? It's how we are. If there's a way to do it fast, we want it. And so many people will try fast things first.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Very true.
But then if they want real success, they probably have to take a longer and slower path that involves experimentation and consistent practice and hard work. Hard work actually pays off if you are pointing yourself in the right direction.
Mm, that's important. Just kind of slogging at something which is, yeah, not going to work if it's not in the right direction. Yeah.